In this video, I'll demonstrate the algorithm for shifting elements in the array to the right. I'll demonstrate two algorithms in the video. The first I'll show is easier to understand, but the second one is more optimized. Say we have this array of size 4 containing integers 5, 3, 7, and 9. To shift it right, we move each element one spot to the right. The element that is at the end of the array will wrap around to the beginning. To solve this problem, we can create a new empty array with the same length as the original array. I'll call the original array array1 and the new empty array array2. I've also labeled the indices of both arrays in blue. I'll mark the first element of the array with the letter I. I will be used to mark the current element from array1 that we are accessing. Since we are accessing the first element in array1, I equals 0. Now we'll copy the number 5 to the 1 index in array 2. This index could also be labeled as the I plus 1 index. Finally, we'll increment I so that we're ready to copy the next value. This iterative pattern will require the use of a loop. When I implement the code in the next section, I'll use a for loop. The process repeats until we finish copying 7 from array 1 to array 2. Because after this point, I equals 3. If we kept going, we'll be copying to an out-of-bounds position in the array. Therefore, we repeat the copying process while I is less than 3. To generalize for any array, we repeat the copying process while I is less than the length of the array minus 1. Finally, the last step is to access the last element from array 1 and copy it to the first position in array 2. Let's implement the code. In the main function, I've created an array of integers called oldArray. I've also created a function called printArray, which takes in an array of integers and prints each element from the array to the console. Finally, I've written the method header for shiftArrayWrite. This is where we will write our code. It takes in an integer array, which we'll call array1, and returns an integer array. First, we'll create a new integer array called array2, which will be empty and have the same length as array1. We'll create the for loop that iterates through the array. Remember that we want to stop just before the last element in array1, so we keep going while I is less than array1.length minus 1. At each iteration of the loop, we'll copy the ith element from array1 to the I plus 1 element in array2. After the loop, we'll copy the last element from array 1 to the first position in array 2. Finally, return array 2. In the main function, I'll create a new array called newArray. NewArray will contain the shifted elements from oldArray by running it through the shiftArrayWrite function. As you can see in the console, the elements are shifted to the right, with 9 in the first position now. I think the second method is better than the first because it will not require the use of another array. To start, we'll save the last element in a temporary variable. You'll see why in a bit. We'll start at number 7, then mark it with an I. In general terms, for any array, we'll start with the array's length minus 2 position. Then, we'll copy 7 to the I plus 1 index in this array. In other words, we're copying the element from index 2 to index 3. Finally, we'll decrement I. If we did not save the number 9 in a temporary variable, we would have no way of accessing it when we eventually put it back into the array. This process repeats until I equals 0. In other words, we keep going while I is greater than -1. If we kept going past the 0 index, we'd be trying to access the -1 index of the array, which doesn't exist. The last step is to copy the number 9 back to the first position in the array. The code for this method will replace the code for method 1. First, store the element from the last position in array 1 in the temp variable. Then create the for loop. I will start at array1.length minus 2. The loop will keep running while I is greater than -1, and I should decrement after each iteration. At each iteration of the loop, copy the element at position I to position I plus 1. Finally, we'll copy the value from temp variable to the first position in array 1, then return array 1. As you can see in the console, the elements are shifted to the right. If you want to shift the array multiple times, you can use this code to wrap the shift array right function. When we shift the array right 2 times, we can expect values 7953. As you can see in the console, we got the right answer. If you found this video useful, remember to hit that like button below. Also, be sure to subscribe to see more content like this. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.